always ends up on the same part of its body, regardless of what it turns into. Even when Amethyst turns herself into a ball, she still has a face, and her gemstone is still about as far down from her face as her chest would be. This is something that a member of the crew actually had to come out and confirm. And while I don't consider things like books or comics or even Word of God to be level 1 canon, it is different when it is a crew member clarifying something that the show didn't quite make clear. This isn't them talking about something that hasn't happened or might happen. This is them talking about something that has happened that the show just didn't do a very good job of getting across. So remember, if you ask yourself why they don't simply move their gem at some point or another, remember it's because they can't. Number 8. All gems have effectively the same biology. I say this because while there are some exceptions, such as Amethyst, who is smaller than the average gem of her type, or Pearl, who seems to have a pocket dimension where most gems don't, all gems are the same species. There are different types of gems in the same way that there are different races of human beings. While they are part of a species that is effectively artificial and does lend itself to being altered scientifically, unless we are expressly told otherwise, it is irresponsible of us as theorists and fans to assume that gems don't share the same ability set. Unless we are expressly told otherwise, there is no reason for us not to believe that all gems can shapeshift, regenerate, summon a physical weapon from their gemstone, and that all gems have additional powers aside from these things that are in some way unique to them / their gem type. I'll use Sapphire as an example here, since I've been talking with a lot of you guys in the comments on my Ruby and Sapphire video, and we have a Sapphire episode coming up, and I'm just psyched to talk about the character. But yes, Sapphire does have future vision, but that's not her gem weapon. She still has to have a gem weapon in addition to that. Just like she has the ability to shapeshift, she can regenerate from her gem, and she can cool the area around her as part of her additional power set. This is just like how Pearl can walk on water and also summon a spear. And this is why I don't believe the theory that Pearl can't shapeshift. She's been shown to fuse, and based on all of the visual evidence, fusion is just an extension of shapeshifting, so I see no reason to think why she would be an exception to the rule. I mean, that's how biology works. Members of the same species tend to, at the basis level, be able to do the same things. Number 7. Gems are not immortal. They are ageless. There is a distinct difference between these two terms. Immortality suggests that the being which has it is incapable of dying. That's not true for gems, and therefore they are not immortal. Number 6. Gems are not genderless, they are sexless. With the exception of Steven, who is the first gem ever to be born with a sex, all gems are sexless beings. I mean, after all, they are effectively a hunk of rock with a hologram around it. But just because they are sexless, it doesn't mean they are genderless. All of the gems that we have met so far have been female in figure, and have referred to themselves and others using female pronouns, with the occasional exception of Amethyst, who, when shapeshifting into a male form, does, according to the crew, refer to herself with male pronouns. This is an important distinction to make, as it is a very important aspect of the gems and their character. Number 5. Steven cannot be poofed. Not only has the crew themselves said this, but it just doesn't make sense that he would be able to be poofed. The reason that gems can retreat into their gem is because they are able to deactivate their holographic body. Steven doesn't have one of those. Therefore, he can't be poofed. That's actually all I've got for that one. It's pretty short, so moving on. Number 4. Fusions follow only 2 common design rules. That being that all fusions have some degree of extra body parts, and that all fusions have multiple gemstones, one for each component. The design of a fusion has nothing to do with how stable the relationship is, and you cannot distinguish a fusion based on the color scheme of the gem, or based on whether or not it has irises in its eyes. Those are all fan theories, and they are myths. Not only have they been disproven by evidence in series, but they have been flat out refuted by members of the crew. And while it is entirely possible that a fusion of villainous characters, or of untrustworthy characters, or of characters who don't do well together, might look more monstrous than a fusion of characters who do get along well, that is entirely a design decision and has nothing to do with in-universe logic. Number 3. The Earth in Steven Universe is very different than our Earth. You may have noticed watching episodes which show the Earth, either from orbit or in the form of a hologram or etc., that Steven's Earth looks different from ours. There are certain details that are just not what you would expect. Not only that, but names of places seem to be radically different in Steven's world, with states having entirely different names, and with the country of Mexico seemingly being called Aqua Mexico in this world. There is some debate amongst the fandom as to exactly why Earth and Steven Universe is so different from our own, but I'm not going to get into that today, as I do have a theory coming up which will address the subject. Needless to say, though, something big happened sometime in the past of the series, and chances are, based on the narrative structure, we're never going to be directly told what it is, unfortunately. But until we know for sure, we kind of just have to guess. Number 2. Steven Universe is not a kids show. It is a family show. Steven Universe is a show that is meant to be accessible to people across multiple age demographics. It's a show that kids of varying ages and their parents can watch together and enjoy it. The fact that it is made to be accessible to kids at all is what makes Steven Universe a remarkable show, considering some of its subject matter. But calling it a kids show specifically is not fair to the crew, and it's not fair to the show itself. And finally, number 1. Rose is dead. That's right, unfortunately, and as much as I hate saying it, Rose is dead. She's gone. She's not poofed. She did not give up half of herself to become half of Steven. There is no second half of Rose floating around somewhere, and unfortunately she's not just sitting around inside Steven's gem waiting to regenerate at some point. She's gone. The crew had talked about this on several occasions, and then the book Guide to the Crystal Gems flat out confirmed it. The data stored on Rose's gemstone, which made up everything that she was, became a part of Steven when he was born. Rose is Steven now, and while I don't think that her influence is gone forever, Rose herself is. So sorry all you guys who are out there theorizing ways that she might be able to come back into the show. That's just not going to happen. And once again, for lack of a segue, let's jump right into the outro. That's my first top 10 video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I made this specifically for you. Once again, I thank you for getting me where I am. I couldn't have done this without you guys. I love every single one of you, and I hope you stick around far into the future, because I don't plan on stopping this anytime soon. But guys, what did you think of this video? Would you like to see more top 10s, or would you like to see me otherwise branch out more from my typical theory videos and reviews? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
If you have CIU or chronic hives without a known cause, join us at Facing CIU to learn more.
One morning I woke up with an itchy toe, and within a week, my entire body was covered in itchy hives.
I'm Dr. Jackie Agrari-Sabet. I'm an allergist, and I treat lots of patients with hives.
I had hives every day for about 6 years.
I was frustrated I couldn't find the cause.
They thought I was allergic to you. Good thing I'm not.
You're not alone. Start watching now to get our inside scoop on CIU.
Let's talk a bit about the Gem Temple. There is a very well-known theory that the temple was built in the image of a giant fusion gem, one made from the post-war crystal gems, that being, of course, rose quartz, garnet, pearl, and amethyst. The temple seems to have a heart powering it, a heart made of crystal, like a giant crystal battery that we've seen powering a lot of the gem artifacts and locations. Perhaps this crystal heart is symbolic of the fact that the temple is based off of a living creature. Looking at the crystal gems and the position of their gemstones, and taking into account that gemstone positioning does not change going from an individual gem to a fusion, except only in hypothetical circumstances. The positions of the gemstones carved onto the body of the temple seem to match up to the locations of the gemstones on the crystal gems, much like they would on an actual fusion. You can also see similarities between Alexandrite and the temple fusion. They both have multiple arms and a face covered in a mask which acts as a second phase. The temple, however, if built to scale, is much larger than Alexandrite. It also has thick, flowing hair like Rose. I firmly believe that this fusion exists. In fact, I believe we have confirmation of it as of historical friction, when in Pearl's version of the story of Captain Dewey, a giant crystal gem that is presumably 50 feet tall based on previous dialogue, appears and saves the ship from a giant gem monster. While the details don't perfectly match up, the figure used in the play was made by Stephen and Jamie based on Pearl's description, so it may not be 100% accurate. If you guys would like me to expand on the temple fusion theory some more, let me know, but the temple fusion theory has been done many times before. So instead of talking more about that theory directly, I want to discuss what I think the fusion's purpose is for existing in the narrative of the show. There has to be a reason why Rebecca Sugar and the Crewniverse would make this character, other than to infuriate us, right? Right? Anyway, all jokes aside, some fans of the show think that this fusion was used to win the war and drive the homeworlders from Earth. But of course it wasn't. The crystal gems didn't have Amethyst during the war. She could not have been involved in a fusion that was used during the war. So what reason would they have to form this fusion? Well, I think historical friction gave us the answer. I think hundreds of years ago, or longer, there were more powerful gem monsters that were larger and more dangerous than the ones we've seen today. That the ones in modern times are just remnants, and that a larger gem was sometimes required to fight these larger creatures. I think there are two possibilities as to why the temple is in the visage of this gem. Either it simply became the symbol of the true unified strength of the crystal gems, and that's why it was chosen as the visage for the temple, and the gems created the temple themselves, or the gems created a temple within a carving made by Captain Dewey himself as a thank you for saving his ship. So if this was the purpose of the temple fusion in the past, so what purpose could the temple fusion have going forward in the series? Can the temple fusion even be created anymore? Well, we know a few things that are relevant to this. We know that Homeworld has a renewed interest in Earth, whether it is just because of the cluster, which seems to be a persistent threat, or for other reasons. Homeworld, after thousands of years, suddenly seems interested in Earth again. We also know that Stephen has Rose's power, and he could, in theory, fuse with the other crystal gems to make a fusion that is, at the very least, a variant of the temple fusion in order to oppose Homeworld, or possibly even the cluster. After all, Rose clearly had many more allies during the war that the modern crystal gems just don't have anymore. If Homeworld does return in full force, the crystal gems would need an edge, and a giant fusion with the powers of all of the crystal gems, that would certainly qualify as such an edge. If you allow me a bit of pure speculation for a moment, I think I even have a candidate for the name of this fusion, that being Fullerite. It is a man-made crystal harder than diamond, which is made by fusing smaller components together. It takes a little bit of work to make, which could be symbolic of the work that it takes to create and maintain a fusion. It is made by combining materials, so in a way it is a fusion itself, and it is harder than diamond, or in other words, it is stronger than the Diamond Authority. The only thing that makes this name unlikely is that the smaller components that are fused together to make Fullerite are all the same. They don't combine a bunch of different gemstones together to make it, obviously. So like I said, take this last bit of conjecture as you will. I'm not even all that confident in it myself. In fact, I 100% guarantee that Rebecca Sugar and her entire crew are much cleverer people than I am. I'm sure that whatever they end up naming this fusion will be much more appropriate. But what do you think? Not just about this potential name for the fusion, but about anything in this video. Would you like me to talk more about the temple fusion theory itself? Do you think that this fusion had or has an entirely different purpose than the ones I've listed here? Let's get a conversation started in the comments section down below. This has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
get out.
Steven Universe and all associated images are property of Cartoon Network, Rebecca Sugar, and any and all other respective owners. I don't know them all. All footage in this video has been used for the purpose of critique parody under fair use. Please support the official release. Okay, so first of all, guys, I just want to point out that I have 6,000 subscribers now. That just blows me away. I mean, I just still cannot believe that there are 6,000 people out there who, even for just the second that it takes to hit the subscribe button, said, hey, I care enough about what this guy says to want to hear all episode of the show or anything found in a specific episode of the show. We're looking at the extended opening video. That being the video revealed at the 2015 San Diego Comic-Con that not only showed the building of Steven's house and made the fact that Steven wrote the theme song to the show canon, but also gave each gem a chance to sing very briefly about why it is they fight to protect the Earth, about why they were willing to forsake gem culture and build a new life on a planet that isn't their original home. Except for Steven, who was born on Earth, though you could say that he would have two homeworlds if there was peace between the crystal gems and the homeworld gems. Or Amethyst, I guess, since she was technically born here too, but homeworld is her ancestral home. Now please take into account that I could spend an entire episode, and then some, just talking about the sheer adorable that is baby Steven in this video. But truth is, there is something much more interesting in this video, that being the aforementioned verses sung by each of the characters. At first they seem like triumphant declarations, but if you really think about it, I guarantee that your opinion is bound to change. While none of these brief little verses are entirely negative or anything, there are some negative connotations to each. And to be perfectly honest, I can't believe that Rebecca Sugar and the rest of the crew would have included those negative connotations unintentionally. So today I'll be talking a bit about each of those negative connotations and how I think they might impact the show. I'll be starting with Garnet and Pearl, kind of lumping them together, as they are the two characters who have actual experience with and memories of Homeworld. I feel like one of these two has the most positive, least worrying reason for fighting out of all four. Let's take a look at the lyrics. I won't be actually playing any of the music from the video in this because I don't want to anger the YouTube copyright gods, as I hear they tend to summon lightning down to smite people who do so, which is something I like to avoid. So I'll be going over the lyrics in my own words, sometimes paraphrasing them. Garnet declares that she fights for the place where she's free to live as herself, that being a permanent love fusion. I think this is the most positive affirmation here, as we have already seen that Garnet has a good sense of duty and a good heart above and beyond this reason for fighting. She has made a home on Earth, and she's genuinely happy here. Even if peace was made with Homeworld, and Homeworld came to accept the right of all gems to fuse with whoever they want, I don't know that she would just up and leave her life on Earth. Pearl's verse also leaves me with a strong feeling that she is unlikely to just leave the Earth behind, but for far less healthy reasons. Pearl declares that she fights in Rose's name, for what Rose believed in. We have seen how self-destructively devoted Pearl is to Rose, which is why I find it unlikely that she will up and decide to ignore Rose's directive to defend the planet. But there is more to Rose and her history than what we know, or what I think Pearl knows. I will be talking about this more in the Rose conspiracy next month, but basically I think that Rose realized how damaging it would be to Pearl if she knew everything that Rose was up to, and Rose therefore kept things from her. Just learning that Rose kept stuff from her at all was devastating to Pearl. If she learned something that shattered her perfect image of Rose completely, it would change everything. Pearl, for her own health and happiness, needs to find her own reason for fighting before it's too late. With that said, let's move on to Earth's homegrown heroes. And again, one of them is more troubling than the other. In this case, it's Amethyst. She declares that she will fight for the world she was made in because it's everything that she's ever known. And that makes perfect sense. She's never experienced homeworld culture, and in fact, the other gems seem to shelter her from it. So instead, she has immersed herself in human culture. But what if she were offered a chance to experience homeworld culture for herself? She now knows from Peridot that gems of her type are important warriors on homeworld. Amethyst is a runt, a smaller than average, overcooked gem, one who probably doesn't even have a full understanding of all of her powers. But what if Yellow Diamond showed up and agreed to overlook Amethyst's physical deficiencies and teach her? What would Amethyst do? It's a hard question to answer, and it is one that I do plan to tackle in full someday, so I don't want to talk about it any further here. Instead, let's discuss Steven's verse. He sings about fighting to live up to everyone's expectations. Clearly, there is a certain, mostly unspoken understanding that Steven has some kind of destiny, or at the very least a legacy, to live up to. I think that the weight of this affects him even if he tries not to let it. As he gets older, I think this will only get worse. However, through interactions with humans and the other gems, I think that Steven has a very good chance of growing as a person even as he helps others to grow and work through their problems, and that he will eventually find his own reasons for fighting. I think he'll be fine. The only thing that really bothers me about Steven's verse is the fact that I think we're given details about a fifth character here, that being Rose herself. This does tie into the Rose conspiracy again, so I won't say too much, but just look at this image here, this image of Rose behind Steven. She's drawing attention to him, as if presenting him to us. You can't see her eyes, but you can see her smile, and just try to tell me that that doesn't look like the expression of someone who has been playing a long game and has finally won. But as it tends to be in my videos, this is all just speculation. It's all just a theory, and we won't know for sure what's true until we see it on the show. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
Now that we've dealt with white, pink, and blue diamonds, oh wait, that's wrong. White, pink, and blue. Why the change? Well, as TMTRCCLBY pointed out on FT Lapis, if the diamond on the left of the mural is truly a godlike entity being worshipped and being royalty, it would make sense that she'd be put in a sort of burial pyramid, albeit an inverted one. This also goes with her more triangular theme and doesn't violate the fact that it's in the battlefield, because war, at least in ancient times, would have pauses so that both sides could collect and bury their dead. So, everyone give a hand to TMT, like his comments, sub to his channel, whatever you do, so long as you DO IT! Okay, now with that done, it's high time we get on to Yellow! What? Oh, where's the picture of Yellow Diamond? Alright, okay, now you're just messing with me. Wait, what? Who did this? It's confirmed? Ah! Yellow Diamond. There, that's better. Oh, come on! Why are you... What the hell do you mean I have to give fair representation of both theories? But Fine. While I wanted to save the story of the canon diamond for later, in the essence of time I'm gonna do it in this video before I'm inevitably proven wrong. The first half of this video will focus on Yellow Diamond as though she is still in her fused mural form, as this includes most of her history anyway. The confirmed Yellow Diamond will be talked about afterwards, but keep in mind that there may be some missing information in the form of a video that will be aired after this one. Well, put up after this one. So I'll give you a few more seconds to click on an annotation for whichever diamond you want to start from, as well as the explanation video. I'll base my thoughts on the canon diamond for whenever that's up. So, let's talk about Yellow Diamond before the rebellion. What was all of that like? Well, we can infer that there were 4 quote-unquote leaders to the gem species, at least on Homeworld, although it's unsure as to what the actual power structure was like. We don't know if they had different roles, or if one was higher than the others. We also know that the gems may be perceived as people, or just as tools, as we've seen with Lapis's mirror, some of the corrupted gems, and on some of the Homeworld ships they can be seen to be literally power sources. Kind of a morbid way to think about your still conscious peers, isn't it? Finally, there's also the issue of fusions implied by Jasper. Fusion may be a controversial topic as it allows low-ranking gems access to exponential increases in power, most clearly seen when you look at Tsugalite. Not to mention cluster experiments being analogous to reanimating the dead for, again, tools of war. So gems have a pretty grim dark existence when you think about it. And when you also put in that Yellow Diamond has probably witnessed the deaths of 2 of her sisters, and the betrayal of her entire race by the 3rd, and being the only known leader left of an entire species of people, Yellow's had it pretty damn rough in the past couple thousand years. You okay there, Yellow? You feeling alright?